gathers. And tonight we're going to cover what I call a basic lesson of finance, a basic lesson of money. And so let's just get with the intro first. Best Money Strategies is the name of my business, and we are in the financial education and service business. So obviously our primary mission really is to teach business owners and individuals how to safely make money. Also how to safely grow that money, and finally how to protect that money. So those are the main objectives of what we do. And we do that mainly by utilizing non-traditional tax advantage strategies. And when I say non-traditional, well, you recognize traditional much easier. A traditional investment option for the average person typically is their 401k, their thrift savings plan, 403b, 457, SERP plans. And all these plans are the same as far as features. They're just called a different name. And some of those features that most people tend to overlook, or truly ignore, are the plan is not owned by you. It's your employer's plan that you're allowed to participate in. So you have no ownership. Also, the best feature about it is tax deferred. That's what attracts most people. You can grow your money, or as your money is being invested, and if you're making money, it's growing tax deferred, meaning you don't pay taxes on it now until you actually take money out. So you get to, grow faster in theory. So that's the feature that most people get attracted to, and then they ignore the other attributes. So you don't own it. Yes, it is tax deferred, but it is 100% in the stock market, invested in the stock market. So that means every dime you invest, you put it in this account, it goes in the stock market. You have a choice of, if you want to be aggressive, somewhere in the middle, or somewhere what they call super safe, like bonds and things of that nature. But at the end of the day, it's in the stock market. So that means you are 100% at risk. So if you read the fine prints of your plan, you will see the employer will say that they are not responsible for anything that happens to your account. So if you make money, great. But if you lose all of your money, it's on you. There's no one to sue and go after to get any of your money back. So that's the part that most people just kind of ignore, and they throw the dice and hope and wish that it's there for them when they need it. But again, those are some of the key features of your traditional investment plans. And again, most people just don't even think about them. Oh, and by the way, they're also liable, for lawsuits and judgment. So if you go through a divorce, or a creditor goes after you and say you owe them money, your 401k, thrift saving plan, all that is fair game. They can take it and liquidate it to pay off that debt, child support, or alimony, or whatever it may be. None whatsoever. So those are things that most people ignore investing. And what I really want to do is teach you about what we call tax advantage investing, because it has totally different features. And it's the thing that most people don't take the extra couple of hours to understand, and they just don't invest in them because they don't understand the advantages of them. So mostly wealthy people utilize tax advantage investment strategies, and that's a common trend. of the 95% that own the wealth in this country, they all have the same thing in their portfolio. They will have at least one, perhaps two tax advantage strategy implemented, because they understand that timing of taxes is more important than the vehicle itself. You want a vehicle that gives you the tax advantage when you need it the most, which is when you take money out, not when you put money in. Excuse me. So I'll give you more of the features of the tax advantage further on in the presentation. But the main thing tonight we want to discuss is what I call an average plan. And it's average in the sense that the average person can take this concept and get it started quickly and not be overwhelmed. So that's what I mean by average plan. So it doesn't matter if you make 50,000 a month or 1,000 a month. Your number is your number. The concept of the plan is still the same. And the things you need to understand are budget, why tax advantage, as you know, instead of traditional, and you want something that's easy to start and manage. So that's what we're going to discuss. This is some budget basics. You have to, in order to begin to save and invest, sensibly, you need to know how much money you're making down to the penny and how much you're spending down to the penny and where you're spending it. So that's like the number one requirement, because from that number, those two numbers, if you're bringing in X and you're spending Y, it leaves a balance, either positive or negative. And you need to know, hopefully you have a positive balance, and you need to be ready to take that positive balance and start either saving more or investing more. That's the goal. Now, the next thing is, it's very important to understand what an emergency fund is and what makes up an emergency fund. But in basic terms, an emergency fund is, I have 6 months at a minimum to 12 months worth of expenses covered in an account, like a savings account, that I can get to if I lose my income. If you lose your job, or if you get sick and can't, do whatever you have to do and work anymore to make money, you need to be able to have money that's going to sustain you for at least 6 months, ideally 6 to 12 months, until you can figure out how to get back on your feet and start making money again. And part of your emergency fund has to be your investments as well. They have to be included inside of your emergency fund, because they have to be classified as expenses as well, because you pay your light bill, water bill, car note, home mortgage or rent, whatever, and debt, credit cards and whatever, you paying those every month. Well, you need to include in that number how much you're putting away in your investments as a bill. That's an expense. So, because what most people do is, when life throws that emergency at them, they cut off their investment money and take that back, because they're like, oh, I didn't account for this in my emergency fund, so I can't afford to keep investing because this life emergency just popped up. So now they're not investing anymore, and they're liquidating all their capital to take care of this emergency. So you want to make sure that you don't make that mistake, but instead include inside of your emergency fund your investment costs as well. So that way, if you have to stop for 6 months, from your income stops for 6 months, you know that you still are investing and saving, as well as taking care of that life emergency. That's the goal. And then you want it to be simple so you can do it quickly. So those are the budget basics. And that's just one example. Again, this doesn't have to be your number, but if you're making 4,000 a month income, but you're spending 3,000 on expenses, everything, like I said, from rent, mortgage, to cars, to credit cards, whatever, and your investments, and you still got $1,000 left over at the end of the month, then you're doing good. So your goal is to have a surplus, because with a surplus, then you have the option of doing one or two things. You can continue to spend more to pay down your debt, or increase your investment dollars to reduce your timeline of when you can, you know, be successful at your investment strategy. So again, your goal is to have a surplus, but you don't necessarily have to think of this as I can't, do everything. I can't invest and pay my bills and everything and my debt at the same time. And I'm telling you, you can do all of that. You just have to understand your budget down to the penny, so you can still pay all your debt. That means your debt are, being managed properly. You're paying your minimums to keep them going, but at the same time, you also never stop investing in yourself, in your future. So that is key. Now, what is tax advantage? And these are some of the features of a tax advantage investment strategy. One, like I said, it looks like a regular traditional, investment option when in that it's growing tax deferred. So it does that too. But what makes it super, super great is that it's tax free when you withdraw it. So that means if you put money away for 10 years or 40 years into this tax deferred account, when you take it out 10 or 40 years later, your money is tax free. You don't pay any taxes on it. That's phenomenal. And the reason you can do that is because you've already paid the taxes up front, because this money that you're using to invest in the tax advantage account typically is a post-tax dollars, meaning you made money from work or business or whatever. You paid taxes on it already, and now you take that money and invest into this account. So the government is saying, because you already paid tax once, you never have to pay tax again, as long as you don't break a rule. And that's basically what a tax advantage account is. And this is what wealthy people understand, and they utilize it. They understand the leverage that comes with this type of account. They get to use more of other people's money to put into this account, already paid taxes once, and then they don't worry about paying taxes at the end when they need it the most. And then, like I said, unlike a 401k and thrift savings plan and whatever, you own this. Generally speaking, a tax advantage account means there's a contract between you and the service provider. And they're going to give you a document saying you're 100% owner and you have beneficiaries. So in your 401k, you have beneficiaries, but you don't own that account. That's why it can be taken from you at any given day, or it can be completely wiped out and you have zero control. In a tax advantage account, you own it and you have a contract. Someone is going to do a certain, thing for you. So that gives you a certain amount of risk control, because now you know that they're going to provide you a certain amount of protection, and you can actually go after them if that service provider does not honor their end of the deal. That's the difference. And then another thing is, like I said, it's not affected by government programs. And this one right here is what I'm seeing the most with my older clients. They're 65 and now they're collecting their thrift savings and 401k plan money, 5 and 10,000 a month. And they look at their Social Security check get cut completely down by up to 85% in some cases. So they're getting taxed all over again. The government says, hey, you're making too much money out your job, 401k or thrift savings plan when you're in the military. And because you bring in 10 grand a month, the maximum of your Social Security benefit, because you don't need it. We're going to give it to someone else who doesn't need it. So that's how it works. So you work hard for this money and you want to have a better life, or at least the same lifestyle you had while you were working, while you retired, and now you can't. You're penalized all over again. You're taxed all over again. And When it comes to the Medicare and Medicaid, it hurts you even more because now you have a major illness and you got to have this big surgery. Your health care from your job is gone. So you have the Medicare, Medicaid thing going. But what happens now, you're on a program where it's income based. They're going to tell you, you have too much money coming in. You got $1 million in your thrift savings plan. I'm not going to let you have this surgery on the government's dime until you spend your money first. So you have to go through what they call a spend down scenario. You have to liquidate your retirement account to pay for all expenses. You have to get rid of all your rental properties in your name and only keep one house to live in, one car, and you can only have that account up to a certain dollar amount, maybe 100, 115,000. After that, anything above that, they're going to penalize and make you liquidate it to pay for your big medical issue. If you want to live, you need to liquidate first, and then the government will kick in and pay for everything else. And on top of that, the program is very restrictive. You may not be able to get, a nurse to come in your house every day. You may be forced into a nursing home, not of your choice because that's what the program because you qualify for. So those are things that people don't think about when they need it the most, which is down the road, much, much later, because they're sitting here looking at the dangling, shiny object saying, I'm just going to grow this account nice and fat now because it's tax deferred. I'm going to maximize my input and they're matching me at 6%. So this has got to be great. And I'm telling you, it's not great. It's just an illusion. It makes you think it's great. But that's what happens. In a tax advantage account, those things doesn't affect it. Meaning, if you have a tax advantage account, that income is tax free. So it's not provisional income. So that means you still qualify for 100% of your Social Security. Doesn't affect your tax advantage. And you now qualify 100% for the Medicare and Medicaid thing. Because as far as they're concerned, you don't have any provisional income coming in because all yours are in tax advantage accounts. So you could be bringing 10,000 a month from your tax advantage account and it will not affect any of those programs. That's the way the rules are written. And then the final thing is it's judgment proof. Remember we talked about that, divorce issue or that creditor coming after you because you owe them some money. Well, in most of the 50 states, not all of them, they protect these tax advantage accounts and from judgment, from lawsuit, probate. There's only a handful that don't do it. They'll let partial lawsuits or partial payouts go, but for the most part, most of the 50 states will protect it at the federal and state level so that you don't have to worry about losing your money to a lawsuit. So again, that's the key to a tax advantage account versus a traditional. And then easy to start. It's self-explanatory. You want, just like your 401k or thrift savings, you go into your, admin office and you fill out a sheet of paper with your name, social, birth, and you sign it. And you just tell them, hey, I want this amount of money to go in this type of fund, aggressive, medium, or super save. And they just take it out every month. So you get your statement every year and you get to see it go up and down because when the market is negative, you lose money, you see that negative hit on your account at the end of the year. When it's good, you see that positive. But what you don't see and don't calculate is the fees, the expense fees, the charges that come with it. When you're making more money, you're going to pay higher fees. When you're losing money, you're still going to pay fees. They may not be as high because you're not making as much. But either way, you're going to pay fees, win or loss on your part as far as money being made in that account. Those are things that people don't calculate and take into consideration. So not only do you have inflation and taxes going to hit you when, in the end, you got the erosion of your account due to those. Every time you lose money, you're still paying fees. So your loss is actually bigger than what you see on paper. And the rules and things still apply. Like we already discussed it already. You can have beneficiaries in it, but they may not be able to get your money if you owe a debt when you die. That thrift savings plan on 401k may have to go pay off a debt first. And then once your, dependents or whoever gets that money, they have to pay money taxes on that money too. It's not passed along tax free in a traditional account. Whereas a tax advantage account, your beneficiaries can get the money tax free. So you just created a wealth generation tool. You have the ability to make a lot of money, grow it tax deferred, get it tax free when if you need it, and you don't have to die, you can use it while you're alive. But if you have to pass away, it's protected from judgment, probate, and they can get it tax free too. So you just created a generational wealth by having a tax advantage account over a traditional. First example, a cash value life insurance policy. And I like this one because it's so simple and easy for the average person. As long as you're decently healthy, and the younger you are, the better, because it's cheaper for a cash value life insurance policy. And I'm talking about an index universal life because it's the cheapest compared to a whole life. But we're not going to go into details of that part. We're just saying a cash value life insurance policy has these distinct features. You have living and death benefits. And what I mean by living benefits is, again, you don't have to die to benefit from your life insurance policy. If you happen to get sick and you have to stay home for 6 months from work, your life insurance policy death benefit that would have been paid if you died will now convert over and become what you call long-term care payout plan. It will pay you every month, typically about 2% of your face value, tax-free, to help you with your recovery issues or your health issues. So if you have critical illness, critical injury, even terminal, if you are the doctor diagnosed that you're going to die in a year or 2 years, the insurance companies will pay typically 75% of that face value. So if you have $1 million policy, they'll write you a check for $750,000. Here you go, live the rest of your life peaceful and as happy as you can be because you're terminally ill now. So again, you don't have to die in order to benefit from your policy. And then obviously the death benefit is simple. Once you die, you're leaving whatever that face value is to your beneficiaries. And again, they can get that tax free, which is key. So obviously your cash value can be utilized for several things. So while you still have your other benefits, your long-term care and living benefits, your cash value side, as that policy grows and your cash value, which is like your thrift savings plan or your 401k, is growing, you can have access to that cash. You can borrow against your policy tax-free. And when you borrow that money, you don't have to pay it back. And the insurance company is going to make sure that you don't overborrow to make your policy lapse. But that's the whole idea. You can borrow the money and do something while you're alive. Buy a car cash, send a kid to school, whatever you got to do, a health expense, whatever. They don't care. If you have a sufficient cash value, the insurance company doesn't care what you use it for. They're going to give it to you as tax-free in the form of a loan or withdrawal. And they're going to give it to you, no questions asked, no credit check, no, credit score, no application, none of that. They just give you the money in a matter of days. And you can do whatever you want to do with it. And again, in most cases, you don't have to even pay it back because your policy is growing consistently. So it's going to keep generating money to pay back that, plus maintain your life insurance coverage. And that's the key to growing cash value quickly as possible so that you don't have to pay a bunch of money. So when you compare it to a 401k or thrift savings plan, the very first year you buy it, cost is going to be higher because you're buying a life insurance policy that has a defined death benefit as well as a cash value and long-term features. So you're going to pay more upfront because you're paying for the cost of that feature. So the very first month you could pass away unexpectedly and someone's going to get a big chunk of money. but you're only paying a fraction of the cost. But it's higher than a 401k because you're getting a better benefit. You're getting much more than what you put in. Now, as you go in time, that drops down significantly. So the longer you hold your policy, the cheaper it costs you because your policy now starts to pay for itself. So you're paying very little of your own money. At some point, you don't have to pay any more if you hold your policy like you should, which is to the day you die. You can literally go and stop paying usually around 10, 15 years, or even sooner. It depends on how you fund your policy. But once you do that, your policy is paying for itself and you're not paying anything for it. So compared to a 401k or thrift savings plan, is way cheaper long term. Whereas a 401k will continually go up as your policy, as your value goes up. If your account grows up to 2 million, you're going to pay more fees, 3 million more fees. Well, it's opposite in your insurance policy. If your cash value gets to 3 million, your fees go down. That's just the way it works. Another example would be real estate notes. And we have a strategy where we do the same thing. We try to teach our clients to use a certain type of account that allows them to grow it tax deferred, but at the same time, they get to withdraw the money tax free. And it's super safe and higher returns on investment because you're still backed by a real property. But unlike a traditional investment, real estate deal, I'm not buying a house and putting a lot of cash into fixing it and getting it ready to flip or sell or rent because now I'm into the house for $100,000 total out of pocket. I only have two options. I have to sell it for a profit to make money, or I have to rent it until I can sell it to make money. Whereas if you do a note deal, I have about 11 different strategies, exit strategies to make money in a transaction. And I'm only paying a fraction of what you pay in a traditional deal. So that same house that you spent $100,000 in to buy and fix, I may spend $25,000 and control that same valued house, that same property, 25 grand all in, and I don't have a mortgage to worry about. And I have about 11 ways to make money out of that deal. So I don't have nearly as much risk and I still get a higher return. Double digits returns is normal in a note transaction. 10, 15, 20% or more is normal. Whereas a traditional real estate investor, if they're getting 4, 6, 8%, they're happy. Well, in a note deal, we're getting 4, 6%. We're like disappointed. That's the reality. And it's easy to manage if you utilize our strategy. So this is just another example that people, particularly older people, they like this one because they don't have to be a landlord and they don't have to understand everything about real estate. All they need to know is how much can I invest and what is the guaranteed return you're going to, give me on my money, and how long. Is it 6 months, 9 months, a year, 5 years? And we just agree on the terms. How long you want to collect this money? Because every month you'll collect a certain amount of money and you don't have to worry about all the details going up or down in value, none of that, because we have several options to protect your money, your investment dollar, and still give you a high return. So definitely need to call us about this one. This one is super, super sexy. And the final one is the private family foundation. And this one is a new option that we brought to our toolbox because we like it. But most people, again, use traditional 501c. You're asking the, IRS for permission to be tax exempt, paying them $750 a minimum, and you got to renew it every year. And you got to, you can't say certain things. And it's just too many restrictions. What we're talking about is a 508 private, which is a faith-based organization, and it's the same as a nonprofit, just like a 501c in the sense that once you create it, the only difference is once you create a 508, you are automatically tax exempt. You don't need permission and you don't have to pay this big fee to the IRS. You automatically file it with the Secretary of State. You pay that fee for filing, and after that, you are exempt day one. And you don't have to worry about reporting your information by doing tax anymore. You don't do tax returns anymore. You just grow your income, and it's tax exempt the entire time. Your foundation can own assets that make money, and that money is growing tax free, and you're not paying taxes on that growth. That's the key. So this one is really good for folks who are older and the insurance option is out of their reach. So we show them how to create a private family foundation for a few $1,000s. And now you can still have a tax-free environment to grow your wealth. Like I said, this one is definitely nice, and we're definitely at this one recently because we like the features of it and not the red tape that comes with a 501c. So it definitely gives you a lot of protection and control. And if your nonprofit now owns your assets, your home, your cars, and things of that nature, you just make yourself even more qualified for any of those other programs, the government programs. So on paper, you have zero net worth, so you never have to worry about qualifying for Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, or anything, because all your income that you would have had, you just donated to your foundation, and now it's there growing tax free, and you don't have to worry about it counting against you. So again, it's low cost, easy to manage. This is something you definitely should call us about as well. So those three are the key, some of the key examples of tax advantage investing that we try to teach. And obviously, the reason we love these options is because, again, you don't have to worry about paying taxes when you need it the most at the end. It doesn't affect your bottom line of income because it's all tax free at that point. So it's non-provisional. So it won't affect your other programs that you would normally qualify for once you're over 65. And then you have this extra layer of protection from creditors and judgment and lawsuits. And like I said, you still get to grow it tax deferred, but you own these accounts. All three of these, you are the owner, you are the manager, you are in control. So you minimize your risk. And they're not in the stock market. So you don't have to worry about waking up to a market crash and wondering what happened to your account. That won't happen in these three right here. So that's it, folks. That's what I call the basics, the basic plan for the average person. And it's not super complicated. But again, we could take this and expand upon it if you're a business owner and show you how to really take advantage and have your business, pay the cost for these plans. And you now, have two advantages of being in business. You get to create these accounts that are tax-free for you in the long run, but at the same time, your business is absorbing that expense and not you as the owner. But also as a private individual, you can utilize these same strategies yourself. Particularly high income earners, they utilize these because they don't have any other place to put that extra money they're making besides paying taxes. So we show them how to create a foundation, reduce their taxable income by 30% year one, and it keeps going down. We show them how to invest in real estate notes and supercharge their retirement accounts. And we show them how to get the biggest policy they can, cash value life insurance policy, and further increase their end result. They know exactly what they're going to be getting in the future, and it's not at risk like it is in the 401k or thrift saving plan. So that's it. Hopefully you guys, understood the concept, the drum I was trying to beat, to focus on learning tax advantage over traditional. That traditional stuff is, like I said, it's all an illusion, and it doesn't help you in the long term or short term for the most part. So you want to give us a call at, Best Money Strategies. You can go to our website, bestmoneystrategies.com. And you can also give me a call at 410-855-5373, 410-855-5373. Enjoy your evening, and hopefully you guys can join us for one of our live webinars within the next 2 weeks. Have a good night. Take care.